monopolies, in the sense that on the supply side, especially hospitals, you're looking at the three big groups that makes up about 80% to 82% of the market. If you look on the demand side and you look at the funders who's organized, Discovery makes up 55% of the market. So you have clearly dominant role players. The best to illustrate it is go and ask any healthcare provider what makes him tick, and he will tell you there's a few checks. If he receives that, he's fine. If he's got a check from Discovery, Gems, Bonitas, and Paulmet, he's fine. And everything after that falls to their bottom line. And so we do have challenges, and we believe that the health inquiry address some of these issues and put more checks and balances in place, or recommend them at least, and would like to change that landscape as it is skewed on both sides. There's also some address to the medical schemes on governance and things to structure their business only to the interest of their members. We also see some serious recommendations on that. Then, are there changes imminent in healthcare? The answer is yes. I do question the readiness for the NHI. I have to be honest, I question it. I question the affordability of a monthly expense over and above the social grant, whether South Africa can afford it in this time and day. I do agree with Carl that there will be, specifically for day hospitals, huge opportunity to work with government or whatever insurance they put in place to help make it a more cost-effective environment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my little contribution, the first one. Thank you very much, and I now invite Mark Resnick from Pressmet. Mark, wouldn't you please come and address the people? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and nice to see some familiar faces here again. I'm going to, it's been a long day so far, but I'll try and minimize this to half a dozen slides. I'll take you through afterwards, happy to take questions, but what I do previously, I think it's always good one-on-one. I can give you more in-depth information, and that might in fact help you better. What I thought I'd do is just run through very briefly the Australian day hospital industry. This particular industry which we're involved in, we specialize in the establishment and management of day hospitals. We have taken on a new type of strategy which I'll talk about later. We like to believe in Australia, we do not see ourselves as a big monolithic cruise ship. We see ourselves as a smaller boat which we can move very quickly because the market does change, and if you're not fast enough with the change, it can be left behind. Our main disciplines that we do in Australia is ophthalmology, ENT, ear, nose and throat, OMF, oral maxillofacial surgery, and a bit of plastic surgery. We do not go through the entire gamut of different disciplines. We like to focus on those where we believe we can get the best margins coming through to the business. We have an organization called the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and very interesting, there are 657 private hospitals, that's day and overnight hospitals, of which what Carl alluded to early on, 357 of them are day hospitals, about 53%. Most of these day hospitals are owned by doctors, so there is a lot of emotion attached to this. And so dealing with them going forward in the growth of the business does take some effort, but there are great opportunities that go with that as well. Just to give you a dollar figure, the private day hospital industry generates over 1.2 billion in revenue from a potential of 1.2 million patient treatments. So it is a very big market over there. Our population obviously is much smaller than South Africa, so you can see it's a very interesting dynamic. And the vast majority of day hospitals, as I said, are owned by the doctors in their own capacity or by industry players. And there's a small group of private day hospitals that slowly but surely are growing within the industry. And there's a good opportunity, as I said, to go forward in that area. Just very briefly, our day hospitals, we focus in New South Wales only, and that was a decision that I made. Getting into this market, we had to do it very cautiously and carefully and grow very consistently. We now have 5 day hospitals and 1 laser division. Those are the areas there. This does not include the Coffs Harbour that Carl alluded to earlier on. Very briefly, the executive directors of PresMed, we made a decision to go into Coffs Harbour. We did a lot of work with a group of doctors. It's about an hour flight north of Sydney. And we thought a great area. We had a lot of meetings with doctors, and only once we started in the business, unfortunately, there were 6 ophthalmologists who work in that great area, and 3 of them became involved in a bit of a political and legal problem with each other, and that affected our business. And the executive decided to look at the strategy and try and work out a resolution to it. We had a time limit. If this was not going to be achieved, we would have to cut our losses. Very hard in the business to do it, but it's no doubt the right decision going forward. I would hate to be here in a year's time and then still having to do this and stand in front of everyone with further losses in the business. As Ray Dalio, who's one of America's greatest hedge funders, once said that it is no good just taking aim, and never firing. You have to make a decision. This was a decision that we made, and I believe it was in the best interest of PresMed going forward. Just some highlights within the group, which I think is important. 5 day hospitals, we've just bought into a new one that Carl mentioned earlier on. It's a great facility, an ophthalmic facility, been in the market around about 25 years, owned by doctors. A lot of negotiation to get there, but we're very excited with this. 1 laser vision group and over 130 doctors who are credited with us in the business. We have over 16,000 patients per annum and a 94% patient satisfaction. Many people would pat themselves on the back that we have a 94% patient satisfaction. We look at the opposite. We say, why? What is happening to the 6%? We have our marketing people that go into this, and actually for those patients, they put their names down. We get hold of them. We discuss it with them, and we see how we can improve on this. We have also instituted in our group consumerism meetings where we invite patients to sit with our executives and our directors. We have this twice a year where they can openly talk, where they can see that we can improve our business, where we're doing things well. They will tell us whether it's bad and we can improve. They tell us as well. So I think it's very transparent and very important for the business, and very mature of us, I think, to go forward in that aspect. We're very proud that of the 657 private hospitals, day and overnight hospitals, we are the only one in Australia to have received membership of what is called the World Association of Eye Hospitals. And that's something that we're very proud about, and something that they recognize in us, and it's a worldwide organization, that we're doing things particularly in ophthalmology which is recognized, and it really gives me a level of comfort with our doctors and with our staff and our clinical people that we are doing the right thing. We have also become what is known as a RANZCO accredited doctor registrar training program. RANZCO is the Royal Australian New Zealand organization of consulting ophthalmologists. And we have now been recognized as an accredited facility where doctors who come through training can actually come in to our facility. And also as well for us, University of Sydney, we've now become affiliated as teaching hospitals in all of our facilities. There are strict criteria to actually be accepted. And for me, it's fantastic that our staff have managed to achieve this with our doctor support. Just some group highlights, which is going to overview much of what Carl said, but I'm just putting it into one slide. Over 16,000 patients, a growth on last year, $34.1 million, up 7% on last year of revenue, EBITDA 4.7 million, which is a 48% growth, and net profit before tax 1.7 million is a 17% growth. And this is from continued operations, which Carl mentioned last time. I think key and important for everyone over here is what is the strategic focus. For obvious reasons, I can't go into the minutiae, so I've tried to genericize this as best as possible. We have a 5-point plan in our strategy. We look at this constantly. We have doctors who are involved in every one of our facilities that sit on the board with us. We also have what we've instituted as a specialist medical doctor grouping, that not only do we have doctors from a board level, but we get key doctors to sit at a non-board level with us and look at various points of strategy. It's important. They are our key players. The staff, absolutely important. Without the right staff, the doctors won't come there. But if the doctor doesn't bring their patient there, we don't have a business. It's as simple as that. So what are our strategies? It's driving up our patient numbers. And how do we do that? I spend an inordinate amount of time with my key executives meeting new qualified surgeons and trying to get them to join existing practices. Very difficult for a newly qualified surgeon to come and set up and try and grow. Rather let them go to a busy practice, get them to feel comfortable. There are patients coming through, there are long waiting lists. The sooner we can get someone in there to increase the drive of revenue into our facility through that, the better it will be. To consolidate surgery, this is a bugbear of ours. It's a very difficult thing in Australia. Doctors work at multiple facilities. They have referrers in various suburbs, so they need to try and do their patients in day hospitals or overnight hospitals within those areas. What we try and do is work with doctors to say, we understand that you need, from a competitive point of view, to actually remain in those areas, but try, instead of doing 10 cases on the list at another hospital, drop that to 6 cases and bring those other 4 to us. We can't force them to do it, we can't force any patient, but it's really having to work with them. We have started to see this is now starting to come to fruition. We are a mature market, as you've heard earlier on, so the growth in there is done very cautiously, and this is a good way of actually doing it. So the second thing is the health fund negotiations. This is the biggest hurdle of entry into the actual market in Australia. If you do not have a health fund, or medical schemes, we call it health fund, if you do not have a contract, you might as well not go into business. By law, they do not have to give you a contract. You have to sit and negotiate with them. So this becomes very important. The bigger the group you are, obviously the more, in inverted commas, power that you have. So that you need to go and work with them. And that was the other reason that we stuck in New South Wales, initially, in this particular instance, that we could go to them and try and get best rebates from those health funds, which will assist all of our facilities. So it is important from the strength of the group to be able to do that. The other thing that I mentioned earlier on, we look at particular disciplines which give us what we believe is the highest rebate and therefore the gross profits within that. The third point over there is cost control objectives and how this is being met. We've got 3 particular areas here. We try and work with our doctors to standardize surgical supplies and lenses. As our business is ophthalmology, it's predominantly close to 70% of our business is ophthalmology. 70% means a lot of lenses. The lens companies are very powerful companies. They have their reps that will go and talk to doctors. The way, very briefly, the rebate system works in Australia is you negotiate with the health funds, they give you a fee. I'm just going to use a round dollar figure, $2,000 for cataract surgery. Within that, all the costs are ours. Every paracetamol you give to the patient, every needle that you use, every lens that you use, that's our cost, not the health fund's cost. So if the lens cost us $1,000 and a rep goes to the doctor and says he has a new lens, and this, by the way, now costs $1,500 and the doctor wants it, we've got to bear that extra $500 cost. So we have to talk to our doctors. We cannot force our doctors not to use that lens. Why? Because they can vote with their feet and they can walk to another facility who will grab them. I always say you can lose a doctor if they're upset in 1 day, and it will take you 2 years to find another doctor to replace that doctor, and you've lost a lot of work coming through. So for us to work with the doctors is important. We do standardization of the lenses. We work together. They understand. We have a number of them that are shareholders in the business with us. that they understand that if they can together agree to a particular lens which offers us further discount because we're using those lenses more, that will fall to our bottom line, and them being shareholders as well will increase their returns on their business. Staff development programs for efficiencies, we do a lot of that to try and support the business in costs and understanding nursing costs there and how to utilize it correctly. We are only open on a Monday to a Friday. The nursing cost is terribly expensive in Australia. It is a day hospital. We sit around about, not giving exact figures for obvious reasons, but above a 60% theatre occupancy rate, which means that we've still got a lot to fill, so we want to make sure we can fill that correctly before doing anything else. And finally, the rental of equipment versus purchasing of equipment. In certain facilities, if we're in a strong cash position, earning a very low percentage, we'd rather go and buy the capex than go to a funder who specializes in medical fundings and pay a higher cost there. But it all depends on what the business is looking at and how we're doing. The fourth one is efficient cash collection. Our focus is very much on cash as well. Over 95% in 30 days. As Carl mentioned, in this past financial year, we did not have one bad debt write-off, which is unbelievable. So kudos to our particular staff who work very, very hard in ensuring that patients are informed upfront, doctors are informed upfront, and I just think it's an outstanding result. And finally, the fifth point is pursuing investment opportunities. Once again, PresMed in itself, as I mentioned earlier, we acquired an investment in MetWest, this company, which is an interesting aspect. It is both a day hospital and a consulting practice. It's on one premises. Consulting practice is downstairs, theatre upstairs. It works well. It's a fantastic opportunity. It's taken us a number of years to negotiate with the owners who are very emotionally attached to it, but it's a great way going forward. And likewise, on that same principles, we are once again identified several other opportunities in the business, and we believe, following a similar strategic model, that this will benefit PresMed well into the future. And finally, just a brief summary. Very openly, it is a challenging and competitive market in Australia. We are absolute, resolute, focused to strengthen our current business. We want to make sure that the current business continues to grow, that we look at every opportunity that's available to ensure that we offer fantastic service. And once we implement the strategies, we believe that it will benefit the business. And finally, there's two different types of growth. It's looking at your current business and looking at new business. And we have to carefully, strategically, and with focus ensure that we invest in the right business concerns. And if it means paying perhaps a little bit of a premium, but to go into a business that has got good cash flow, good profit, you hit the road running, and we are of good assistance with them going forward, again, that will be to the benefit of the business. So thank you for your time. And once again, as I said, afterwards, delighted to sit or stand with you and answer questions. At this point in time, we have got, I think, some live...
no questions.
Oh, no questions. All right. I was going to say there were some live things, so we can go to the audience over here. And if you want to speak with Gerard, with Carl and myself, please go ahead. Thank you for your time.
Carl, just can you give us some colour on IFRS 16 leases?
What sort of color would you like to see, Mark?
How's it going to affect you, and in which areas? You know, I'm not sure how much of your buildings, your actual sort of real estate is owned, or possibly leased.
None of our real estate is owned.
Okay.
So we're leasing everything, and yeah, the
Right
problem.
of use assets.
Sorry, just repeat that again.
Right of use assets and leased equipment.
Yeah, lease equipment, not such a big impact on our side. Most of them were immaterial when we did the calculation. The impact that we did see, very interesting, it will increase your EBITDA figures significantly. Like I said earlier, we're not going to speak about EBITDA anymore. But below the line, we did the calculation, it's going to have an impact of about 62 million rand. 62 million rand on the IFRS adjustment on interest. Yeah. And that's for the group as a whole. Because you need to take into consideration, because you have to discount it against the interest rate. And in South Africa, it's quite significantly if you compare it to, say, for example, Australia. Australia, not a very big impact. And if you take, for example, Europe, where it's like 1 or 2% interest, yeah, it's got a significant impact. But that is just the line item, because when we did the calculation, we didn't go back necessarily to see on straight lining what is the difference on that. But that is the straight impact just for that. So obviously you need to take the straight lining out, and I can't unfortunately give you an answer for that. But it's got a significant impact on the leases.
Hi. CEO spoke about the J curve earlier. Are you able to give us some color on the underlying South African hospitals and how many of them are profitable on a standalone basis?
On the South African side, one of our hospitals has become profitable. It is very interesting. It's not our biggest. It's not the one with the best turnover. It's not the one with the most patients. We've actually analyzed it, and it's the facility with the best doctors mix. And what we see there are, at this moment, 3 facilities which we expect to become profitable within the next year, which are very close. It's our bigger facilities in the south. And then at this moment, there are 3 other facilities which we are very proud of that are on their own, standing on their own feet, and that they are cash positive, and they're not looking at increasing the loan accounts.
I do have one more question, sorry. Just with regards to NHI and positioning yourself to maybe be a better provider to government, let's say it does happen. How are your empowerment credentials, and how are you best positioned to take advantage of that?
Okay. At this moment, we are definitely looking at getting a BEE partner. That's been a talk for some time now. Unfortunately, we've not got to that point as yet. So we are really focusing again on that. I think it's one of the first issues that Gerard is actually going to address, and ensuring that we do get our 100% or our correct triple BEE credentials in place. Any further questions? As Mark said, you're more than welcome to approach any of us if you would like to have a one-on-one. And I'd like to thank you this afternoon for joining us once again, and drive safely. Thank you. There would be some snacks and some cold drinks outside. Thank you.